Hi Elon, it is episode 2. I am Alicia and I am asking you to gift me a Tesla. Okay, so far I've cleaned my room, made my bed, and I am praying for my Toyota Camry to make it until I receive the Tesla. Okay, so I drove just now from Napa to Santa Rosa very slowly, but I am here. And I just parked at my first location. I have 2 locations to visit today for my behavior consulting. And as I was driving, I was thinking, I have a really powerful imagination and it works really well for the law of attraction. I tend to attract the things that I think about the most, and I have a really positive mind most of the time. So one of the things that came to me as I was driving was that I have the ability to recreate recipes, right? So when I volunteered last weekend at the Bale Grist Mill in San Helena, California, by just random happenstance, I was looking for a place to hike, and I was online looking at trails, and there was a posting, hey, we need volunteers. And I was like, I think, you know what? I think I should do this. And here's why. Because I have a fear or phobia of being in the food industry, of serving, right? Serving food, even though I love to cook. I had some trauma when I was younger, and I was like, this is a great opportunity for people to know that I'm a volunteer and I'm not an expert at being a server, but for me to actually experience what it's like to be a server. And it was incredible. Okay, I'm getting a little off topic. I tend to do that, but I have another point. So it was incredible for me to actually do that, and I realized I'm actually really good at this. I was really, really good at it. Okay, so that's cool. I was able to reprogram my mind and my thinking about something I thought I wasn't good at. And then 2, the recreating of recipes. Okay, so I met Bernardo, who is the incredible chef for Napa Valley Bistro. It's his restaurant here in Napa. And he made so many delicious things, but he made this soup, and it was a roasted pear and butternut squash, and it was to die for. We got to taste it since we were serving. We got to taste the food in the back, and oh my gosh, I went home and I actually went to the food bank to get food for my family, and they had pears, and I had a soup starter or something of butternut squash at home. Anyway, obviously it's not all fresh ingredients as far as like the prepackaged soup and all of that, but I was able to recreate it very, very closely to the recipe, and it was delicious. So using that memory and those things, it has been really helpful for me to actually put things into reality. Okay, that being said, I would like to go to the Tesla dealership and test drive my new Tesla. And whether they let me test drive it or not, I'm not sure if you have to prove that you can afford to buy one. But either way, I plan to sit in one, convince someone to let me sit in one and smell it and touch it and take some pictures of myself in it, right? It's a thing called self-modeling, and people use it for visualization. Visualization is super powerful, but let me tell you something that I've been able to do with my clients. I use this at work, and I use it to help people to overcome fears and self-doubt. So it's helpful for myself as well as others. And I work with the developmentally disabled population. And I got this idea from Dave Hinsberger, I think his name is, and he's out of Canada. He gave a talk one time at the regional center, and he talked about some of the really awesome things he was doing to help people to succeed and become more independent. And one of those things was self-modeling videos. So what he did was he had a client dress up in a whatever they're wearing. He had a staff dressed exactly the same. So he filmed the client getting all the way up to the curb, but they had a fear of stepping off the curb and that they were going to fall right into oblivion. So he just videoed them walking up to the curb. Then he made a separate video that he was going to fit in, and the video was the staff just from the knee down wearing the exact same pants and shoes, right? Videoed them stepping off the curb and walking across the street. and then filmed the client again. And so when he put the video together and the client watched themselves do this successfully. Solve the problem. So I do this now in my field, and I can't believe that other people don't do this. Other behavior analysts and registered behavior technicians, like, this isn't a thing, but it absolutely works. And so I've been able to like Photoshop myself into scenes and then watch them take reality and take life into reality. Anyway. So this worked out really well for me when I was actually trying to become a behavior consultant. I didn't know anything about ABA, at least in the classroom sense. I had been doing these things, but I didn't know what they were called. I didn't know the language, the terminology, and I was really successful in achieving results. I just didn't have the scientific terms to describe them, and I didn't know how to correctly write the reports, even though I was a great writer. So I connected with some behavior analysts in the Bay Area. Now, here I was, no degree, and no ABA experience, but experience being a case manager for developmentally disabled adults. There's somebody playing basketball right where my car is. Maybe I should scoot up a little bit. And I need to start my car. I need to learn to drive to have a Tesla. Bluetooth enabled. Scoot down some so I don't get hit with a basketball. Okay. Put in park. As a case manager for adults with developmental disabilities, I got a lot of hands-on experience, I guess you could say, in helping individuals achieve independence and reach goals and things like that. And I did it using creative strategies that I invented, at least I thought I invented. Apparently these are scientific techniques, and I just did them naturally, but I didn't call them, by whatever terms they were. So I had really great success, and I thought, hey, I could really help people with this. One day I met a behavior consultant who was a PhD, MFT, BCBA-D. I mean, the dude is loaded with credentials. And we talked about strategies, and he was like, oh yeah, you're doing this. You're just not calling it what it's supposed to be called, according to, people who have status, right? Okay, so anyway, he said, you're really great. You're really, really, really great. All right, so he thought I was great. Well, years later, I decide that I'm going to take a leap and I'm going to contact him. And I'm going to say, hey, do you have any extra work maybe I could pick up on the side? And I had to tell myself that my anxiety in stepping out of my comfort zone and really putting myself out there was not anxiety, but it was actually excitement. Okay, so I had to start imagining that I was going to Six Flags and that I was going on a roller coaster, and I was on my way down the roller coaster, and I would literally be in my car and I'd be screaming at the top of my lungs and saying, yeah, this is awesome, as I was freaking out on the inside, just freaking out. I was like, the voice inside my mind was telling me, I cannot believe that you actually think, you were in 10th grade when you took your California high school proficiency exam to get out of school. I mean, you were a teen mom. It's all these things that were echoing in my head, and all the traumas that I'd been through. It was like every bit of those doubting belief systems were being thrown at me, and I had to break through them. And in order to do that, I had to convince myself that I already was a behavior analyst, that I was a behavior consultant, that I had been doing this my whole life, that they were interviewing me because they needed me, right? I had to tell myself that. I'm deciding if I want to give my services to them. That is exactly the mentality that I had to acquire. And boy, was it not easy. It was so hard. But I'm telling you, I visualized the entire thing over and over and over. I started dressing up and I started walking around and then telling myself and rehearsing over and over. I mean, this went on for 2 weeks before I actually met with them. And then as I was driving in the car and the anxiety got stronger and stronger, I would scream and I would hit my steering wheel, and I was convincing myself I was going down the roller coaster. This was the best day of my life. So exciting. I was on top of the world, that nobody could tell me no. And I went in there, and not only did they offer me a position as an independent contractor, paying me an unbelievably large amount of money for not having a degree, but they thought I was incredible. And so I then was hired by 2 people, which led to being hired by a 3rd, and then subcontracting all of these contracts in the Bay Area. Fast forward to trying to think my vehicle into better shape. That's a different story. So I have all of these contracts. I have all of this potential work, and I tend to run into roadblocks right now where my vehicle breaks down and I'm not able to get to my location. And so I have had to work less and work more creatively from my laptop, but that's not solving the problem. I put a lot of miles on my car. I spend a lot of money on gas. I have a lot of paperwork issues that I need to figure out as far as the IRS, because at this point, I'm not able to put 20% away. I'm putting everything I have into my living expenses, and I have the potential to make a lot more money. I have the potential to do not only my regular hours, but really spend time creating, which one of the things on my vision board, my business plan, finishing my business plan, and then getting it into the right hands. It's tough to do those things when you don't have the right tools. So thank God I have a MacBook that's MacBook Pro, which is great. I have that. I have a home with electricity. I have internet. I have access to the library. I have all of these things. I really don't have an excuse. And it'd be awesome if public transportation was able to get me where I needed to go all the time. But that isn't always a reality, because I do go to some rural areas. So it does help in some ways. I am able to utilize public transportation in some places, but other places not. So that's my story for today. That's episode 2. Thanks for watching, and thank you so much for my Tesla.